Of succession, they have to be born by Meghan Markle. It has to be Prince Harry's child. They can't use a surrogate. And so people are saying we deserve to know if these children are in the line of succession.
What if everything you thought you knew about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's children Archie and Lilibet was a lie? What if the smiling photo ops, emotional interviews, and picture-perfect royal announcements were hiding a truth so explosive it could shake the very foundation of the British monarchy? This isn't just another headline-grabbing gossip piece. This is about a woman known only as DL, who claims she didn't just carry Harry and Meghan's children. She says she's their biological mother, not a surrogate, not a donor. She alleges those children were born from her body using her eggs. And if even a fraction of her story turns out to be true, the implications don't just rattle the Sussexes' carefully crafted image, they call into question royal lineage, constitutional legitimacy, and the future of the crown itself. For years, skeptics pointed to odd photos, strange timelines, and cryptic behavior from Meghan during her pregnancies. But these suspicions were dismissed, labeled as cruel conspiracy theories by fans, and dismissed by the media as nonsense.
So are you saying that he's 2 weeks older? And so I thought maybe that would allow time to wean the baby away from a birth mother if a surrogate was used. It would make sense. But instead of lying to the world, why not just say, we want a baby, we're having a baby, and we're using a surrogate?
Until now, because DL claims to have receipts, hospital records, financial transactions, emails, signed non-disclosure agreements. And she says she's done staying silent. In this video, we're diving deep into the alleged cover-up that could become the most devastating royal scandal in decades, and exploring what it could mean if the woman at the center of it all isn't just a surrogate, but the real mother of Harry and Meghan's children. Picture this. A woman you've never heard of suddenly steps forward with hospital records, email threads, and signed legal agreements claiming she gave birth to two royal children the world believes were born to Meghan Markle. Her name is being kept secret for now, but she goes by the initials DL. And she's not playing games. She's not just saying she helped out. She's saying Archie and Lilibet are her children.
Prince Harry actually writes about the stance in Spare, but I don't think he ever addresses the rumors of whether Archie and Lily were born, came from Meghan Markle's womb.
And this isn't some baseless TikTok conspiracy. DL has specific dates, specific names, and according to her, the Sussexes promised her two things in exchange for her silence: privacy and compensation. She claims they gave her neither. Instead, they ghosted her, erased her from the story, removed her name from every piece of documentation. And now, she's ready to blow the whole thing wide open. If she's telling the truth, this is far more than just a celebrity scandal. It's a constitutional crisis, because under British royal law, a child must be born of the royal mother, in this case, Meghan Markle, to be eligible for titles, rights, and a place in the royal line of succession. That's why the LS story isn't just explosive. It's dangerous for the monarchy, for Harry and Meghan, and for anyone who helped keep it quiet. Because once you start rewriting royal history, there's no telling how far the damage might go. So let's dig into the story shaking the House of Windsor to its core. Starting with the woman known only as DL and the bombshell claims that threatened to undo everything Harry and Meghan built. Let's start with the woman at the heart of this storm. She's using the alias DL, and for now, her true identity remains shielded from the public. But don't let the anonymity fool you. Her story isn't vague, it's detailed. Disturbingly so. According to DL, she was approached in late 2018 by an intermediary working with a private fertility clinic in California, one known for handling high-profile and ultra-discreet surrogacy arrangements. She was told the job was simple: carry a child for a very important couple. She wouldn't be told who they were up front, only that she would be well compensated and her identity would be kept confidential. But as she progressed through the process, DL began to suspect who the intended parents were. By the time legal paperwork was signed and hospital visits were scheduled, She claims she was fully aware that this was for none other than Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. She alleges she provided not just the womb, but the eggs. She claims that the children Archie and later Lilibet are biologically hers. And to support that claim, she says she has hospital admission records, time-stamped email chains, financial transaction histories, and even digital records linking her directly to Meghan and Harry's legal team. But perhaps the most shocking part, the Elle insists that once the children were born, everything changed. She was cut off, payments stopped, communication went cold, and what was once presented as a mutually respectful, confidential arrangement turned into what she now describes as an act of erasure. She wasn't acknowledged. She wasn't thanked. And most critically, she wasn't named anywhere, not on birth certificates, not in legal paperwork, not in any public records. According to DL, this wasn't just oversight. It was deliberate. She claims she was told that in order to preserve the Sussexes' public image and to ensure the children would be accepted as royal heirs, her involvement had to be buried permanently, and she went along with it. At first, DL says she stayed silent for years. She trusted the arrangement. She believed Harry and Meghan would hold up their end of the deal. But now, with no payment, no privacy, and no acknowledgement, she's had enough. She's not just whispering behind closed doors anymore. She's ready to take her evidence public. And the second she does, the royal fairy tale could fall apart. Because if DL can prove what she's saying, this wouldn't just be a media scandal, it would be a scandal of state. So what exactly does DL claim to have, and could it really be enough to bring a royal narrative crashing down? According to DL, she didn't come forward lightly. She's not seeking fame, a book deal, or reality show exposure. She says she's speaking out now because every single promise that was made to her was broken: privacy, compensation, and respect. All of it. What DL brings to the table isn't vague accusations. She has receipts and she's not bluffing. She claims to possess signed NDAs from late 2018 directly referencing arrangements with a legal firm tied to Meghan and Harry's inner circle, hospital admission records from a private facility in Colorado that confirm her presence and procedures consistent with childbirth during the timeframe Archie was born, email threads and digital correspondence that show logistical planning with intermediaries connected to the Sussexes. Bank transactions and payment trails that began flowing during her pregnancy but were abruptly halted post-delivery. And most controversially, photos taken inside the hospital allegedly during the birth of Archie, some of which include identifiable medical staff and metadata tying the images to the timeline of Meghan's supposed pregnancy. It's not just that she has evidence, it's that she says this evidence has never been refuted. No cease and desist, no legal action disputing her claims. Just silence, and that silence, it's starting to scream. Even more chilling, DL says she was told in no uncertain terms that her name would never appear on any official record, not the birth certificate, not medical forms, not even in behind-the-scenes documents submitted to royal or governmental agencies. It was explained to her as essential for optics. Let that sink in. Essential for optics. Because royal children can't just exist. They have to be born under very specific circumstances, to very specific people. A surrogate, even a private biological one, doesn't fit the image. And so, DL says they erased her, like she never existed. But now, she's preparing to drop her full documentation. She's working with a legal team, and according to leaks, she's ready to go public. If even one piece of her evidence holds up under scrutiny, it could change everything from how we view the Sussexes to how the crown determines who's next in line. Now, DL's story isn't falling into a vacuum. In fact, it's igniting flames under rumors that have been simmering for years, ever since Meghan's first pregnancy. Eagle-eyed observers noticed strange inconsistencies. The media, of course, dismissed it all as conspiracy talk or right-wing smear campaigns. But many now believe the signs were there all along, and DL's claims are the missing puzzle piece that make it all make sense. Let's Rewind, and Like Royal. Tradition, there was no public hospital appearance after Archie's birth, no hallway wave. No newborn reveal outside the Lindo wing like Princess Diana or Kate Middleton. Just a vague press release and a private photo taken days later in a distant, dimly lit setting. The excuse, Meghan and Harry wanted privacy, but critics noted more than just the break from tradition. Video footage from Meghan's pregnancy. Tour went viral at the time, clips showing her baby bump shifting in unnatural ways, folding oddly as she bent over, and changing size within short time spans. These were widely shared and then quickly dismissed by major outlets as optical illusions or fabric movement. Still, the questions never fully disappeared. There was the confusing timeline of her due date, the abrupt secrecy around her medical team, the lack of typical baby-related details, the quiet editing of Archie's birth certificate where Meghan's legal name was removed and replaced with only her royal title. That change, originally brushed off as a formatting decision, is now being re-examined in light of DLS allegations. Was it just a stylistic choice, or was it meant to legally distance Meghan from a child she may not have delivered? And it didn't end there. With Lilibet, things were even more locked down. No belly photos, no pregnancy updates, just a casual reveal and a single image months after her birth. Many assumed this was just Meghan being fiercely protective. But those account reframes everything. If there really was a secret surrogacy unacknowledged and undocumented, it wasn't about privacy. It was about preserving an illusion, a carefully manufactured image of a modern royal family, one that broke tradition publicly while privately hiding the one thing they couldn't spin: who actually gave birth to their children. And if DL can back up her story, those old rumors may not just resurface, they may explode. For a long time, the public painted Prince Harry as the sympathetic royal, the rebellious son of Diana who walked away from the institution that damaged his mother and threatened his wife. He was the one who stepped out of the royal machine to protect his family and reclaim his peace. But DLS claims now force us to revisit that story and ask, was Harry in on it the entire time? Think back to those pregnancy announcements, Harry's proud smiles, the public belly rubbing, the emotional interviews where he gushed about becoming a dad. He played the part beautifully, perhaps too beautifully. If DLS allegations are true, then Harry wasn't just a supportive husband. He was a co-architect of the deception. And suddenly, his emotional performances don't look like sincerity. They look like theater. Some royal insiders are even suggesting that Harry knew from the start about the surrogacy and actively participated in keeping it secret, not just from the public, but from royal institutions as well. Because if no formal surrogacy paperwork was submitted to the UK government, and if the children weren't biologically Meghan's, then Harry's silence wasn't just protective. It was strategic. By pretending everything was normal, by publicly touching Meghan's bump and smiling for the cameras, he helped salve the illusion. And that illusion had consequences that extended far beyond their personal life. We're talking about royal lineage, constitutional legitimacy, national symbolism. If Harry knew and still went along with it, then he wasn't just protecting his wife, he was betraying the crown. Now, some of his former defenders are starting to ask hard questions. Could his infamous mental health struggles, his reports of restlessness, paranoia, and emotional exhaustion actually be the result of carrying the weight of this secret for years? Is his recent withdrawal from public life really about avoiding the spotlight? Or about fear that the truth is finally catching up? The charming, rebellious prince we thought we knew may have played a bigger role in this alleged deception than anyone ever imagined. And if so, this isn't just Meghan's scandal anymore, it's Harry's too. At this point, we have to zoom out. Because this isn't just about personal betrayal or celebrity optics, it's about constitutional law. And if even part of DLS story is proven true, the legal implications are staggering. The British monarchy doesn't operate on vibes. It operates on rules, centuries-old rules that govern who can inherit titles, land, money, and ultimately, power, and central to those rules is legitimacy of birth. Under the royal succession laws, for a child to be recognized as a legitimate heir, they must be born of the royal mother. Surrogacy is not explicitly covered in most royal protocols, and the absence of formal documentation, especially when concealed, could automatically disqualify a child from succession and any associated titles. That's why the Alice allegations aren't just disruptive, they're potentially disqualifying. If Archie and Lilibet were not born of Meghan Markle, and if no legal surrogacy arrangements were filed with UK authorities, they may not be eligible for their titles, period. Not maybe, not in theory. Legally, and that brings us to the bombshell detail, Meghan's full legal name was removed from Archie's birth certificate. At the time, royal spokespersons downplayed the change, calling it a clerical adjustment or a stylistic preference. But viewed through the lens of DLS claims, this change suddenly looks suspicious. Legal analysts now believe it may have been a deliberate move to distance Meghan's legal identity from the child's birth record. If so, that wasn't just cosmetic, it was strategic. A way to avoid legal scrutiny or future disputes should the truth ever come out. Now, constitutional experts within the UK are reportedly reviewing what would happen if DLS claims are validated. Some say it could trigger a re-evaluation of how modern fertility practices like surrogacy and IVF are handled under royal law. Others argue that it could cause Parliament to intervene, especially if the Crown is found to have knowingly endorsed a false lineage. And this goes beyond Harry and Meghan, if it's proven that Buckingham Palace was even aware of the situation and helped bury it, then we're talking about institutional complicity. That would make this the biggest royal scandal since the abdication crisis of 1936, and potentially far worse. Because this isn't just about love, duty, or tradition. This is about the very foundation of the monarchy and whether that foundation has been quietly undermined by a lie. While DL prepares to release her documentation and the world begins to ask the unthinkable, one person remains noticeably, almost eerily, silent: Meghan Markle. And for a woman who once mastered the art of media control, this sudden disappearance has not gone unnoticed. No public statements, no press appearances, no Instagram stories, or carefully curated lifestyle posts. Meghan has gone completely off the grid. For someone who built her public identity on transparency, empowerment, and constant communication, her sudden vanishing act has the media and the public asking a dangerous question. What is she hiding? To some, this silence is an obvious red flag. For years, Meghan spoke openly about everything from mental health to royal racism to feeling trapped behind palace walls. But when faced with the most serious allegations of her public life, she's chosen to say nothing. Critics argue that silence at a moment like this doesn't read as dignity, it reads as damage control. Legal insiders speculate that Meghan may have been advised by counsel to stay out of the public eye, not to avoid media attention, but to limit legal exposure. Others believe she's regrouping behind closed doors, surrounded by advisors, frantically trying to control the narrative before DL releases her evidence. Because once that documentation goes public, Meghan's silence may no longer be a protective measure. It may become incriminating. And then there's the emotional toll. Sources close to the Sussexes say that behind the scenes, Meghan and Harry are under immense pressure. Allegedly, Meghan is furious not just at the DLS betrayal, but at the failure of their once tightly controlled image to hold up under scrutiny. There are rumors of arguments behind closed doors, frantic calls to crisis PR teams, and even talks of stepping further away from public life altogether. But in the court of public opinion, silence often speaks louder than words. And right now, Meghan's silence is echoing across headlines because if she had nothing to hide, wouldn't she say something? Anything. Instead, what we're left with is a deafening quiet and a growing belief that this isn't strategic silence anymore. It's surrender. Just a few years ago, Harry and Meghan were the darlings of a new generation. Progressive, relatable, and unafraid to challenge the outdated traditions of the monarchy. They captivated millions. Netflix specials, Spotify deals, Oprah interviews it all painted the image of a couple rewriting royal rules with grace and courage. But that honeymoon period is over. And in the wake of DLS bombshell claims, the very media machine that helped build the Sussex brand is now sharpening its claws to tear it apart. Headlines are shifting. One sympathetic outlets are re-examining old footage. Social media timelines are being flooded with slowed-down clips, freeze frames, and side-by-side comparisons of Meghan's shifting baby bump. Old interviews once considered heartfelt are now viewed with deep suspicion. Take the Oprah interview. For instance, at the time, Meghan's revelations brought global sympathy. She cried, she held Harry's hand, she described her emotional journey as a new mother under relentless scrutiny. But now, many are watching that moment again, not with empathy, but with disbelief. Did she already know the truth? Were those tears part of a larger performance? And if so, how much of what we believed was real? Hollywood is taking notice, too. Behind the scenes, producers and publicists who once clamored to associate with the Sussexes are reportedly going quiet. Some are even distancing themselves entirely, fearing association with what's fast becoming a PR disaster of epic proportions. And it's not just about image. It's about trust, because Meghan and Harry didn't just tell their story. They sold it as a brand, as a mission, as a movement. Their narrative of love, independence, and speaking truth to power became their greatest asset and now their greatest liability. Every day brings new headlines. Every rumor reopens old wounds. Every photo from Meghan's pregnancy is now a clue in a case the public is determined to solve. And the Ellis impending document drop is being treated like a countdown clock, one that could either vindicate the Sussexes or expose them as the orchestrators of one of the most elaborate royal fabrications in modern history. The fairy tale is cracking. And as the media swarms the story, the once glowing image of Meghan and Harry is turning into something far more complicated and far more dangerous. Now that the story has reached the palace gates, the question isn't just, did Meghan lie? Or was Harry complicit? The question is far more profound. What happens if it's all true? Because if DLS claims hold up under investigation, whether by journalists, lawyers, or a court of law, this wouldn't just be a personal scandal. It would be a constitutional earthquake. One that could send shockwaves through Buckingham Palace and potentially shake the very legitimacy of the monarchy. Let's break down what's at risk. First, there's title validity. Royal children are granted titles and succession rights based on very specific rules grounded in bloodline, legitimacy, and birthright. If Archie and Lilibet weren't born of Meghan Markle, and if no legal documentation of a surrogacy exists or was ever submitted to UK authorities, their titles could be revoked. Second, there's the issue of succession. Every monarch's position is based on a clear, legally recognized lineage. If that lineage is found to be falsified or undocumented, the children's places in the line of succession could be nullified. They wouldn't just lose ceremonial status, they'd lose any future rights or recognition by the crown. And then there's the worst-case scenario, institutional complicity, if the palace knew about the surrogacy and chose to look the other way, or worse, helped bury it. Then we're talking about royal deception at the highest level. The monarchy, already battling questions of relevance in the modern world, would face accusations of fraud, manipulation, and betrayal of public trust. Constitutional scholars are already discussing what such a revelation might mean. Could it force Parliament to intervene? Would the rules of royal succession need to be rewritten to account for modern reproductive methods like IVF, donor eggs, or surrogacy? Could this trigger a full review of how royal legitimacy is defined in the 21st century? Because this isn't just about Meghan or Harry or even their children. This is about the future of the British monarchy itself, its credibility, its structure, and its symbolic power. And in a nation where royal tradition is tightly woven into national identity, the unraveling of a single thread could send the entire tapestry tumbling. And all of it, every piece, hinges on the truth behind two births, two children, and one A woman named DL. What began as whispers on fringe forums and distant Reddit threads has now exploded into the mainstream. The world is watching, the media is circling. Lawyers are preparing, and the Sussexes, once media darlings, now media targets, are standing at the edge of a precipice. The woman known only as DL has changed everything. Her claims haven't just reopened old questions, they've reframed the entire narrative. Every smiling photo, every emotional interview, every curated post is now being reinterpreted through the lens of potential fabrication. And with her preparing to release her documentation to the public, the Sussex brand is hanging by a thread. Harry, once the royal rebel with a heart of gold, now risks being remembered as a willing participant in a royal deception. And Meghan, who positioned herself as the face of modern royalty, honesty, and empowerment, could see her entire public identity collapse under the weight of one woman's truth. But beyond the scandal, beyond the optics, beyond the palace walls, lies something even more important: the truth. If DL is lying, she will face the full force of defamation law and public backlash. But if she's telling the truth, if even part of what she claims can be proven, then this isn't just a PR nightmare. It's a reckoning for the monarchy, a reckoning for the media, and a reckoning for every one of us who bought into the fairy tale without ever questioning who wrote it. In the end, this story isn't just about two children or a birth certificate. It's about the power of image, the cost of silence, and the danger of unchecked control. The Sussexes once captured the world by walking away from the throne in search of freedom and authenticity. But if DL's claims are true, they didn't walk away from the system. They rebuilt it with a lie. And now that lie may be unraveling in real time. The public wants answers. The monarchy wants damage control. And time, it's running out. Because once those receipts drop, there's no putting the genie back in the bottle.